When I was younger, I made this mistake of thinking that people who said that they were safe were safe. The number one rule is self-preservation. You have to keep yourself safe. You have to keep yourself alive. If I could go back in time, I would be way more stricter. Parents can do this a lot where they try to play victim in your own life. I've raised you. I expected you to be a certain way. Blah, 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 blah. In order for you to live a peaceful life, you need to, and I'm so sorry to say this, you need to be able to tell them directly or indirectly to go themselves. This is my third time starting this video over. If it doesn't work out this time, I'll just decide that it's not in the books today. Hi guys, happy Pride. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about how to survive and thrive in a violently bigoted and homophobic environment. The actual content starts here. So if you do not want to hear all my yapping, then skip over. I'm going to give a little backstory on what inspired me to make this video. I was kind of rage baited stroke triggered into making this video. I was scrolling on Instagram. I wanted to buy a vintage camera. That's the only reason that I was in that godforsaken app. When I stumbled upon this popular Nigerian digital magazine, it was basically a story about this girl who she was queer. She came out to a friend. The friend was nice, accepting, lovely, and then when she started to make more friends in the queer community, the friend started being cold to her. She confronted the friend, and lo and behold, the friend stopped talking to her because she was getting too into the lifestyle. What actually triggered me was the comments where people were saying, oh, what do you expect her to do? Oh, you know, even though she's your friend, the stigma could rub off on her, whatever. As if that was not enough, because I really don't know when to quit, I continued scrolling, and then I came across another post by this same magazine where they were talking about the struggle of queer Africans because it is Pride Month. The comment section was, as usual, full of the BS with homophobic people. That's the nonsense we have to put up with. Instead of just stewing in my irritation, maybe I should just, film a video and talk about how we can all keep ourselves safe, especially for the young queer people who might not know all these things, how you can navigate, survive, and even thrive in this type of violent environment. The first tip I'm going to give you when it comes to thriving in this environment that is so violent and bigoted, the number one rule is self-preservation. You have to keep yourself safe. You have to keep yourself alive. That is the one rule that trumps everything, because you have to be alive to tell our stories, to protect young ones, to protect other people. We have to be alive, at least as a or the bigots. You have to be alive, and the things you're going to do to self-preserve, they're going to be very different depending on the amount of privilege you have, the amount of money you have, the amount of resources that you have. So for people who are in communities that are more open-minded, which tend to be the richer, higher earning communities, we tend to see that when there is wealth, when there are resources, queer people or queerness is typically better tolerated. It's even sometimes welcomed and seen as something unique. There is still a level of rejection, but is worse for some than others. For a person who has more resources and more privilege, self-preservation can look like them being very vocal and very open. They have the privilege to, and that is what is best for their survival. They have the privilege to be loud, to talk about their experience, or not even necessarily talk about their experience, to express themselves. They have certain liberties that some of us who are in less privileged circumstances, we really cannot afford. For some people, self-preservation is going to be you being in the closet, learning how to fight and defend yourself, or you just blending in. It's going to mean you denying, pretending, restricting yourself in certain types of mannerisms or presentation that can make people to clock you. You're going to have to be stealth, cosplay heterosexuality and straightness, blend into conversations. That is self-preservation. You don't need to feel ashamed of yourself for doing that. For me personally, self-preservation has been a mix of blending in and setting a lot of boundaries about what I do, who I speak to, who I interact with, the things I allow in my life. If I could go back in time, I would be way more stricter. Like, I don't play about boundaries. If I see you moving a certain way, having certain beliefs, I will cut you off. I am not going to interact with you. You don't have to do too much. When I was younger, I made this mistake of thinking that people who said that they were safe were safe. I happened to find myself in a situation where people claim to be accepting, but they're not accepting. Because of that, you're open to a certain type of violence that is not overt, like they're not beating you, they're not hitting you, but you're going to be isolated. People are going to try to paint this stigma on you, like pour dirty water on you and on your character. You're going to be emotionally manipulated because you don't really certain things, like you don't really buy certain decisions, or you're living a certain way, or interacting a certain way, having relationships a certain way. They are going to try to shame you very subtly, very subtly, in a way that like you almost seem schizophrenic. I saw a post where they say that the microaggression is so micro that you almost seem like you're crazy when you're pointing it out. Those are the types of environments that I have experienced in my real life. A form of self-preservation is not even negotiating. I don't want to understand. I don't want to even bargain with myself to ask whether it's a microaggression or it's not a microaggression. I don't really care. If I don't have any other thing to gain from you, I'm going to cut you off. Even in situations where I stand to gain something from that interaction, I will make it so official, like is a strict like exchange, we exchange and everybody goes their way. We're going to exist among bigots, family, friends, co-workers, etc. And there's nothing much you can do about it at the end of the day. You can put up boundaries. For me, survival has been me firmly putting my foot down, especially with people who try to guilt trip you or make you feel as if your existence or the choices you're making is somehow an affront to their own existence. Like parents can do this a lot, where they try to play victim in your own life. I've raised you, I expected you to be a certain way, blah 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 blah. In order for you to live a peaceful life, you need to, and I'm so sorry to say this, you need to be able to tell them directly or indirectly to go themselves. Nobody forced you to have children. Well, society did pressure them into having children, but their life is their life, your life is your life. Now again, you might not be in a position to tell them to go themselves, but you need to put up boundaries as much as you can, even though I know that this is not always possible, because some of these people, they do tend to be very emotionally abusive and sometimes, most times, physically abusive. But in whatever ways you can, set boundaries and be unapologetic about it. I'm even going to go as far as to say that whatever you do to survive, be unapologetic about it. I know that there is context that can vary, but I will say, like, as a rule of thumb, for most cases, we have to survive. Our lives are important. I'm sorry. We cannot be expected to ignore our own safety and just put ourselves into the fire so everybody else can be comfortable. Whatever you do have to do as a gay person to be safe, especially when you're in a situation where your life is being threatened, do it unapologetically. If it means you lying and pretending to like certain people just because you want to survive and even benefit, do it. Do it. Like, it might be immoral, yes, but again, your death is not moral either, and these people do not care. In whatever you do, the number one rule is self-preservation. In a society that is violently homophobic, people are going to try to get into your psyche. When you see people talking about queerness as a concept, homosexuality, they're going to go for very demeaning words to make you feel like you're a sin. And the thing about the mind is that once you repeat certain words to it, it starts to feel through. You start to see the reality that they're projecting on you, the reality that you can never be happy, you can never be safe, you're doing something wrong, you're going to end in destruction. You're surrounded by people who have largely the same sentiment. A lot of us already have to deal with a lot of internalized homophobia. So while you're struggling with that, you have people who are ringing things into your ear, directly or indirectly, consciously, subconsciously, overtly, covertly, like trying to send you this subliminal of the terrible ways that they think that you should end up because you decide to present and love a certain way. It is very important that you stand up for yourself and protect your mind. You don't have to do this by fighting anyone. The way that I protect my mind is by surrounding myself with people who are thriving. The books I read, the media I watch, the way I consume, the way I create is all steeped in queer joy and queer expression. One of the things I did for myself in 2022 was to get into BL and GL, which is genre of queer media, where it's primarily about two queer characters falling in love. Once in a while, we have serious movies that touch on the complexities of queerness, but more often than not, it's a story of two people falling in love, and it's very beautiful, it's very straightforward. By consuming this type of media regularly, I am making myself available to a reality where queer people flourish, where queer people are accepted, where queer people are a part of society. They don't even need to be accepted because they are already a part of society. In fact, in most of these series, everybody is gay and there's just one person who is straight, one person who is the outlier. I'm just feeding my mind. Nothing I consume centers heterosexuality, except if it's like the short dramas that I watch. Most of the media that I consume, even when it comes to social media couple content, if I see straight people on my timeline, I block them. I don't follow them. I don't keep up with them because like I don't care. I'm not about that life. I'm not interested. What I do want to see is queer couples who are happy, queer people who are starting a family, queer people who are adopting children, queer people who have disagreements, queer people who are having breakup. Find a way to incorporate queer joy and queer normalcy in your everyday life virtually, and all this thing is doing is influencing your brain regardless of your immediate environment, regardless of the messaging that you're getting, regardless of what people are telling you, how they're telling you you're going to end up. If you already have a largely mental diet of queer joy, you're going to see the absurdity of homophobia. Like, I cannot even imagine myself in a situation where I had to be like them. I do not want a world where I am like them. I have made myself so familiar with the reality of queer joy, a reality where queer people flourish, that heteronormativity and all it comes with does not appeal to me. Like, I'll pass. It's not even that nice. It's like, it's so boring. Social media, surround yourself with queer joy, people who are talking about their lives as queer people, living ordinary lives or extraordinary lives. We are lucky to live in an age where representation is better than it was. We can see Black queer people, African queer people, trans people, like people of different sexual and gender identities on the global stage, doing beautiful things, doing great things, living very, very happy and fulfilled lives. You can get to see a person who looks like you, a person who has similar experiences with you, living a life that is very beautiful. And when your mind and your body are well preserved, you have the strength to go into number 3, engage with homophobia and the bigotry of homophobia as systemic issues rather than personal issues. Regardless of what these bigots want to tell you, this is not a you problem. You as a person, you are not the problem. You are not doing anything that is against the norm of nature. A YouTuber from Yakubu made a video where they were detailing how queerness has always been a part of African culture. Humanity is so diverse that it does not make sense for you to binarize people. Human beings are so complex that they found out how to fly, how to create machines, how to create this. Like, do you know what is inside this phone? It's very, very stupid for you to see a whole category of complex people and you expect them that the only way that they can navigate gender and sexuality is a certain way, like two categories that must like each other. It does not make sense. It really does not make sense. And when you familiarize yourself with patriarchy, misogyny, heteronormativity, white supremacy, and how all these systems work hand in hand, when you start to learn about marginalization, how it works, you start to depersonalize these things. When people are homophobic to you, you start to see them as what they are: bigots, people who are slaves to their own indoctrination. Bigots like to pose like arbiters of morality. They like to put on this facade that they're doing something that is right. Even if they're being violent, they have to do it because it's the right thing. When you understand homophobia and patriarchy and all these things systemically, you start to see that these people are violent because they have been indoctrinated to being violent. I see a lot of people who are guilt-tripped into understanding their parents. When you then see that these people are acting based on their indoctrination, and it's not about you, it's not about them, it's about what they have been told to believe is true. Their so-called love for you is not enough to make them interrogate certain things. It makes you less tolerant and it gives you a certain amount of peace. You take more drastic measures to protect yourself because you know it's not about you, it's not about them, it's about a system that they want to protect. If somebody wants to uphold a system that harms you, then you protecting yourself is like, it's common sense. A lot of things will not bother you as much. Yeah, it's still going to hurt you because you are a human being, but you're going to make peace with a lot of things when you realize that these things are systems that have existed far ahead of your birth and will still exist maybe when you leave the earth. But we hope that by our existence we make it more tolerable for the future generations. But it's not about you at the end. It's not about you. And for some of us, understanding homophobia systemically can give us something to live for, because we start to dedicate our lives into poking holes into these systems. Whether we like it or not, whether you want to be political or not, where people exist as a protest to the status quo, the heterosexual, the heteronormative, patriarchal status quo, the existence of queer people is a direct opposition to it. That is why they are so mad at us. They want to erase us. They want to preserve a system of patriarchy. You're not a sin. You're not a burden. Your only crime is being in a body or existing in a way that goes against the status quo. And this status quo does not benefit anybody. Patriarchy does not benefit anybody. None of these isms, none of these phobias, none of these bigoted systems benefit anybody. Yes, there are people who are in positions where they can somehow benefit, but at the end of the day, it comes back to suck your blood. Understand homophobia as a systemic concept, and you can do this by reading. I know that books are not really accessible in this part of the world, and even if they are accessible, books on queerness are out of the picture. Social media is a good resource. Follow people who are educated, follow teachers, follow professors who talk about these things, who give reading recommendations, who tell you, oh, check this study. And you're also going to need to learn how to think. When you hear something, pause and think, and always be open to learning. If you hear something that challenges your beliefs, listen to it. And I'm not talking about anything that is dehumanizing you as a person. I'm not talking about homophobic nonsense. When you hear things about systemic oppression that is a bit foreign to you and confuses you a bit, open your minds to it, learn, think about it, because these systems are very tricky. They work with each other in ways that are very complicated, and if you're depending on straightforward thinking, you're going to lose your way. And also listen to experiences of people. When I started to consume more content from trans men, trans masks, I drastically changed a lot of my views and a lot of my content. A lot of things I used to say about men, I just don't say it again, because I've learned that some of the things that I used to say were trans misogyny. Now I'm trying to be more responsible with the words I say. When you educate yourself and you understand these things systemically, you protect other queer people, people who are even more marginalized, people who face more danger than you. One other benefit of understanding homophobia and other bigoted systems as systemic concepts rather than like personal issues is that a lot of violence that you're ignorant to, you start to see very clearly. And when you can see these things very clearly, you tend to stand up for yourself more and protect yourself more. Because I said a lot of the violence that I have faced is not necessarily I'm gonna beat you up, I'm going to hit you, I'm going to do this thing. No, but it's very subtle and overt. It's the way you're told to keep quiet, to keep silent, to accept certain things. You are ridiculed very subtly. Is the way that you're told to, hide yourself. When you understand these things as systems, you can start to anticipate the type of people that have belief systems that can harm you, and you learn to avoid them. The theory will become practical. You see these things unraveling and you don't have to fuck around and find out. You protect yourself, going back to number one, which is self-preservation. The fourth way to protect yourself in a violently homophobic society is that you should not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. You should not be unequally yoked with bigots. Do not be their friends, do not interact with them, and in cases where you must interact with them, be very careful. Keep them at an arm's length, even if you have to pretend to be friends with them. I am not in a situation where I can be completely free of people with bigoted beliefs, but best believe that I do keep them at an arm's length, even though I do have to relate with them. But there are just certain things I'm not going to tell them. There are certain ways I'm not going to relate with them, because again, I know that it is a danger to me. Understand that these people are a danger to your life, even if they say that they want to protect you or they accept you. The mantra should be, if they can, they will. If they can weaponize homophobia to hurt you, they will. Do not ever beg to be accepted by bigots, because it's not worth it. Whatever you think you're going to gain, whatever the acceptance you think you're going to gain, it's not worth it. If they were good people, they would have the common sense to not even let you be yourself, because who are you to let somebody to be themselves? Like, they are themselves and nobody is interfering with them. So like there is no way to even put it, because it's so fucking ridiculous. I lived a lot of my life trying to make myself likable, trying to shrink myself so that I can appeal to people who were bigots without being exiled. And then when I was accepted, I was just like, oh my God, I'm accepted. Like, I was just hoping for acceptance. But I've learned that over the years, you're just putting yourself in physical danger, emotional danger, and you're just setting up yourself to be hurt and humiliated. Don't beg anybody to accept you, unless number one rule, self-preservation. If the only way that you have to be alive is to be accepted, then you can play that tune. But again, it's a game that you're playing. Your mind is never in it. You are doing these things to survive. Have long-term plans or short-term plans to leave that place, because that place is not good for you. It's just finding this balance of fighting hard, like fighting the battle of, again, self-preservation, protecting your mind, being stealth, creating a future for yourself, and creating this balance of you also embracing your happiness, your imagination, your hobbies, your creativity, joy, art, self-expression when you can, like exploring the world in a unique perspective that you inherit by virtue of your queerness, right? Because again, one thing about us is that we create beautiful things. When society takes a lot from you, you end up creating something new and beautiful for yourself, and that is the joy of queerness. That is why we celebrate pride. We celebrate our resilience and the beauty that we create from rejection. And I feel that one of the ways to survive is to embrace that alchemy of creating beauty from pain and rejection. I could go on and on and on, because there's professional advice, mental health advice, but I feel that these are core tenants that if you adhere to, if you keep them at the back of your mind, it's going to just lead you to generally make better decisions. If self-preservation is embedded into your spirit and you know that survival is important, then you're going to take sexual health seriously. You're going to take your financial situation very seriously. Self-preservation is the overarching goal. We need to be alive. So yeah, I hope that what I said was helpful to you. This was a bit of a chaotic video. A lot of things like this is the third time I'm filming this video. I don't know if it's going to go up, but I do like my makeup. Thank you for watching. It meant so much to me coming on here and sharing this information. I wish us nothing but joy. Your life matters. Be nice to yourself. For those of us who are stuck in places where we still have to fight for our lives and for our existence, hope hope in the times to come is going to get better.